let me know who you've got at 154. I don't think people are going to be jumping out to fight him, if I'm honest. But you know, there's a decent payday there and a big fight.
Looking at 175, Eddie, we've got obviously Better Be Bivol. Right under that, we've got a crop of title contenders, especially out of England. The one that I'm going to ask you about is obviously Callum Smith, rumored to be taking on David Benavidez. What's the status of that fight and what's going on with Callum Smith right now?
So we've had an offer from PBC for Callum Smith to fight Benavidez. We're negotiating with them at the moment. It's a great fight, and we all know that Benavidez is a great fighter. You know, it's not an easy fight at all. Callum was the Ring Magazine world champion at 168 pounds. He'd love another shot at the title. There's no easy championship at 175. You know, you've either got Bivol or Benavidez. So there is a very good chance that Callum will take that fight against Benavidez, and we'll be making our decision over the next 1 or 2 weeks.
So that would be an offer for a fight here in the United States for Callum?
Yeah.
Eddie, you know, Tank, he's got his hands full. He's got a rematch coming up with Lamont Roach soon, and no guarantee that fight goes his way. But, you know, beyond that, you've got two fighters, one who's been calling him out for a long time in Shakur, and now Richardson and Hitchens, you know, in the mix, and it seems like they've been going back and forth. Is that a fight? I mean, obviously, I know you'd love to get Tank in with either of those guys, but you think there's any more potential with Richardson and Hitchens than there was with Shakur?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Heyman's going to want to do with Tank. Like, he's got the fight with Roach coming up. Is that dates up?
August 16th
as well, yeah. So, you know, that's a tough fight. But then after that, who is there for him to fight? You know, I think this is the same with Shakur. You know, when Shakur beats Zepeda, you know, he could attempt to unify. Obviously, you've got Abdullah Mason, Sam Noakes. You've got Andy Cruz, he's going to fight. Touch wood, he wins tonight. He's going to fight Murataya for the IBF world title. So there's those unification fights for Shakur, but you know, the fight really is Shakur v Tank, but it's just a case of whether Tank and their team would want to accept that.
What do you think is the holdup there? Is it just like because I'm sure Tank is not afraid of Shakur, but you think is it like pride getting in his way, or maybe the online talk?
I don't know, yeah, but like, to be honest with you, Shakur is unbelievably humble about that fight. You know, where he goes, I'm the B-side, I'm getting less money, I understand. So, I don't know, it's just whether Tank or Heyman want to give him that fight.
Let's just say in a theoretical world, because again they've been going back and forth. They are in different weight classes by 5 pounds. But Richardson Hitchens versus Tank, how do you see that fight going if it were to ever happen?
Richardson's going to be tough for anybody to beat. You know, I mean, you see that tonight. But again, the problem is with Richardson, and this was a problem with Boots, but we built Boots now, is that people will use the excuse of he's not that big a name, or he doesn't have that kind of profile, as an excuse not to fight him. So we built Boots, he started selling out arenas, now you get great money to fight him. But the problem is with Richie, you don't yet. So tonight it's a step towards that. You know, because everyone, why would I fight Richardson Hitchens? It's like that. When someone says that, that means they're very good and they're tough to beat. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if they weren't, they'd just fight them.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Brian Norman Jr. is fighting next week. You obviously made overtures and offers in his direction for a Boots fight. Yeah. You think there's a bit of regret there that they've lost that opportunity?
No, I just think they don't want the Boots fight. I mean, we offered them 1.8 million before, and they asked for 2 million. And then something happened, I can't remember now. And then this time, we went back after the Stanionis fight, and we said, all right, we'll give you the 2 million. And they said, oh no, we're going to Japan. And I said, no, I know that, but let's lock it in for later in the year.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we don't want to talk about any fights till after the Japan fight. I'm like, why? I don't know, because we're just focused on that. It's like, well, I know Brian's focused on that, but the team, top rank, were happy to do the deal.
Yeah.
But Brian wasn't. So, I don't know. I mean, he's a good fighter, but...
And would that be a potential opponent potentially for Conor Benn? Should he move back down to 147?
If Boots moves to 54, then Paddy Donovan against Lewis Crocker will be for the vacant IBF world title.
Yeah.
Then the winner of that may well fight Conor Benn for the world welterweight title, or opens up a huge fight with Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, and if Boots vacates, Giasov, who is the mandatory for the Super Championship, will either fight for that vacant title or will get ordered to fight Rowley for the championship.
Yeah.
And Giasov beats Rowley. So we are going to be placed, I believe, if Boots does vacate, with 2 welterweight world championships. And obviously Conor Benn, after the next Eubank fight, will want to revert to 147. And it's quite important for me that he gets a shot at that world title. But the 147 division is going to be red hot over the next 12 months because all those guys, a lot of those guys are coming up. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised to see Keyshawn at 47, like soon. Probably fight at 140, but you know, you're going to see a lot of guys up at 147. And I think those kind of glory years that we saw a little while ago, you know, with Spence and Crawford, and even Kell Brook, Amir Khan, Mayweather, like all those guys. Yeah. I think that's going to come back again.
Yeah, and at 200 pounds, we saw Jai Bataille get an impressive win recently. I believe he broke his opponent's jaw.
Yeah.
However, the opponent really wasn't, I would say, elite or world level. Talk about the challenges of getting that kind of elite or world level opponent for Jai Bataille. We haven't really seen him in there with one since the Bradis fight, which seems like it was a long time ago.
It's more over that part of the world.
Yeah.
So, like, to make the financials work in Australia, it's very difficult when Jai has been making, obviously, Riyadh season money over there. So you're quite limited in terms of what you can pay for an opponent.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's fighting top 15 guys. Naipa's a good fighter, but, you know, he was actually the mandatory at the time.
Yeah.
Squayo was just a voluntary out of the top 15, well overmatched, but it is what it is, you know. You can't really do too much. Like, Zerdo, Opatara against Zerdo is a really good fight.
Absolutely.
And it's just a fight that should be made naturally. But you can't just click your fingers if the other guy doesn't want to fight. Like, that's a fight that I believe that His Excellency is willing to pay for. He's invested heavily in Jai Opatara over the years, so he wants a big fight with him. And after Zerdo fights Dorticus in July, he should just say, I want to fight Jai. I'm not so sure he will.
So when you say the other guy, you're referring specifically to the fighter, not to De La Hoya's promoter?
No, I think Oscar will. I mean, Oscar knows boxing. He knows how good Opatara is. But Oscar's not afraid to make big fights.
Yeah.
But it's everybody's got to buy into that. And it is a dangerous fight. But it's supposed to be a dangerous fight, isn't it? I mean, like, that's... If it's a lot of money and it's a unification fight, it should be a dangerous fight. But it's the best fight in the division, and it's one of the best fights out there, to be honest with you. So, you know, you've got Mikalayan, he's the rematch in Badu Jack. I would like Jai's next 2 fights to be back-to-back, you know, unifications. See him become undisputed at cruiserweight and then move to heavyweight. I really think he can win world championships at heavyweight as well.
No stopover at Bridgerweight?
No, doesn't exist in my book.
Eddie, just can we get an honest opinion on the comeback of Manny Pacquiao? We've never seen somebody get inducted into the Hall of Fame and then come back. And
I think like, it's very difficult to criticise Manny because 1, he's such a nice human being, and 2, he's an all-time legend. But you can't just be out for 5 years, like already be done, and then come back, have a couple of exhibitions, look terrible, and then phone up the WBC and say, stick me in at number, what are you going at, 5 or 9 or something like that? It's like, but also it is a business, and I do understand, but it just makes a little bit of a mockery of the World Championships. And Barrios is not the greatest world champion, but I think he's better than what we saw last time out, you know, when he boxed on the Mike Tyson card. And I think he'll beat Manny Pacquiao quite handily. So you can't really, you know, I'm happy for Manny, but it just shouldn't work out like that. And you'll see a shot legend in the ring, which I think is quite sad, you know. But listen, if he wants to do it and he's got the will to do it, good luck to him. But I just don't think you should be out for 5 years, not fight anybody, and then just stroll back into the rankings because you're Manny Pacquiao. Do the fight, but it shouldn't be for the World Championship. in my opinion. But I don't think he has a chance at all, even though Barrios is showed no great form. I just think he'll just be too young and strong for him.
Eddie, you spoke about something earlier that Turkey also has, he tweeted about the Tom and Jerry thing, right?
Yeah.
It seemed like he could have been, I don't want to put word in Turkey's mouth, but alluding to Devin Haney and his performance in his last fight. But just what are your thoughts on him saying that and it impacting fighter styles? Some fighters, it's not necessarily running, but they don't have a necessary come forward attack or use their power to win. I think it has an impact and business going forward. Devin Haney.
I think that I like to see exciting fights, right? We all do.
Yep.
Not everybody fights like that. And as a promoter whose job is to guide the career of a fighter successfully and to see him continue, hopefully, to win, it would be kind of moronic of me to say to a fighter that you've got to stop, you've got to start trading, you've got to start fighting in the pocket. They're like, what? Like, that's not what I do. It's not moronic of Turkey because he's paying the bill and he's not really guiding the career of fighters. Do you know what I mean? He's just saying, I'm paying for entertainment. Fucking entertain me. And I'm overpaying you. So when I overpay you, you better excite me and the fans. And then they don't, and it's like, that was a fucking waste of money. And he's very honest about it. I don't think I could ever say that to a fighter, but what you can say is, to all fighters, just understand this. If you fight like that, no one's going to want to watch you. And if no one wants to watch you, people aren't buying tickets. And if people aren't buying tickets and people aren't tuning in, then you're not going to get opportunities and you're not going to get the money you deserve. And this man coming in now, Sugar Nunez, this is a guy that every time they step into the ring will give you entertainment. Probably one of the most exciting pound for pound fighters I've ever worked with. And when we went, what I like about Sugar Nunez is you can put him in any situation, any fight, any environment, and I know he's coming out on top. Like, he's the kind of guy that you could throw into a bar with 40 people and say, Sugar, I'll see you in 5 minutes. And he'll come out, like a Western out of the bar and say, Vamos! Right? So much so that he went to Dagestan or wherever, to fight Rakimov. I mean, in the most hostile of territories. And they tried to rob him on the scorecards, even though, and he knocked the guy out in the 11th round. Then he went to Japan, and it was like, no problem. And I would never send a fighter to Japan, really, to fight for the world title. But I'd send Sugar, because I know he's fine. I know he's coming out the other side. And now, against Rikishi, he changed his life, because he's now, for me, one of the most exciting fighters pound for pound in the sport, but also world champion at 130 pounds, with massive fights. Navarrete, unification, Ray Ford, who's here tonight, he's fighting Kakachi. If he beats Kakachi, he could fight Sugar Nunez as well. And this is a guy you guys need to start talking. He's a young man, and he's going to be around for a long time. And I want to make sure you guys follow his journey.
Una pregunta aquí, Azúcar. Háblanos, por favor, de la experiencia de pelear allá en Japón y la experiencia de ganar el título mundial y lo que quieres hacer este año y el año que viene en el deporte del boxeo.
Ok, primero que nada agradecer a Eddie por la descripción, y pues fue una buena experiencia, también fue muy emocionante ver a Eddie que estuviera allá en Japón y tuve una preparación excelente, un desempeño también en la pelea muy bueno, nos enfrentamos a un gran peleador que es Rikishi, y gracias a Dios pues nos logramos llevar la pelea ampliamente y me siento contento de estar en el lugar en el que estoy, esperé mucho tiempo por ello y pienso seguir trabajando, me encantaría hacer una defensa y luego una unificación.
So the question was, talk to us about that experience that you had going to Japan, going and winning that world title, but also what you want to do next year, in the coming years, and what you want to achieve in the sport. And Sugar's answer was, I want to say first and foremost, thank you to Eddie for that great description of me before. But also, I'd like to say that it was a fantastic experience in Japan. It was really exciting to go there. I think we put in a really good camp preparation, and it was also a really good performance from me on the night against a great fighter, Rikishi, and thank God we managed to achieve what we achieved. You know, in terms of what I'd like to do next, I would love to continue working hard. I would love to have a defense of my title, but also to go on and unify in the division.
¿Te gustaría pelear contra Navarrete? ¿Y aquí en los Estados Unidos o en tu México lindo?
Me encantaría donde sea que fuera, en México, en Estados Unidos. Sé que iba a ser una pelea muy atractiva para todo México y para toda la afición del mundo del boxeo, y tengo fe que un día se va a dar esa pelea.
So the question was, would you like to face Navarrete? Would you like to do that in the US or in your beautiful country of Mexico? And Sugar's answer was, I'd love to have that fight. I'd love to have that fight anywhere, Mexico or the US, wherever. I think it would be a really attractive fight for the fans. But I think it would also be an attractive fight for the whole boxing world, and I have the faith and the belief that that fight can be made.
Sugar, ¿cómo estás? Felicitaciones primero que todo por el título. Navarrete o va a una revancha contra el filipino o tal vez sube. Lamont Roach va contra Gervonta Davis. Solamente te queda Foster. ¿Qué tú piensas? ¿Pelear con Foster y tal vez subir? ¿O qué es lo que realmente tú deseas? ¿Qué es lo que tú quieres hacer?
Lo he dicho pues mucho, que me encantaría pelear con Foster y con Navarrete, porque estoy interesado en una unificación, y con cualquier campeón me encantaría pelear. No tengo problema por ello.
So the question was, obviously Navarrete is going to look for the rematch with a Filipino fighter. You've got Lamont Roach, you've got who might be going up in weight. So is the Foster fight one that you'd be really interested in, or what would you like to do in terms of opponents that you would like to face? And Sugar's answer was, I've always said that Oshaki Foster or Navarrete would be the fights that I'd like to have, because I'd like to unify, and the opportunity to go and unify in that division. So I'd have no problem facing either of those fighters.
Sugar, I know obviously, you're going to welcome all comers, in a unification bout or a defense. My question for you is, as far as the champions go, the Navarretes, the Fosters like we just spoke about, who of those guys do you think would have the hardest time with your style?
Sí, obviamente has hablado de querer unificar la división y todo esto. Hemos hablado de Navarrete y Foster. Entre ellos dos, ¿quién lo tendrá más difícil lidiar con tu estilo?
Pues los dos son grandes peleadores. Siempre lo he dicho que Vaquero también es un gran peleador. Me gusta mucho ver sus peleas, también de las peleas de Foster. Son pues grandes peleadores que por algo están en el lugar en el que están. Y
díganos,
pues,
Sugar, díganos, habla claro.
A los dos se les iba a dificultar.
Respeto.
So the question was, the question was English. So they're two great fighters, Navarrete and Foster. I really enjoy watching their fights. So they're obviously where they are for a reason. And then the question was, can you stop sitting on the fence? Tell us who would have it more difficult. And Sugar said, I think both of them.
Háblanos por favor de tu historia en el deporte, cómo empezaste, lo que hiciste al nivel amateur.
Ok, empecé a los 13 años, empecé por defensa propia para aprender a defenderme. Hice una carrera amateur de 5 peleas, pero tuve muy bonita y buena experiencia en los sparring. Me tocó trabajar en sparring con Fernando Montiel, Cochulito, con Hugo Increíble Cázares, con grandes campeones que estuvieron en el gimnasio. Pienso que me sirvió mucho esos sparring, y pues debuté a los 17 años y aquí, hace 10 años, y aquí seguimos trabajando.
So the question was, talk to us a little bit about your history in the sport. How did you start? What was your amateur background? And Sugar said, I started at 13 years of age, and the reason I got into boxing was for self-defense, really. I only had 5 amateur fights, but I had some great experience in terms of the sparring that I had with Montiel, with Cáceres, some wonderful champions there, and I think that really helped. I made my debut as a professional at 16 years of age, and here I am today.
Sugar, Eddie said that, if you were in a bar with 40 dudes, he would, give you the pound, walk out the bar and say, I see you in a little bit, and he had confidence you would come out. So my question for you is, where do you think he, you know, besides obviously your fights, where do you think that comes from in you, where somebody would have confidence that one Sugar versus 40 dudes, you know, Sugar wins the battle?
De lo que hablamos cuando él estaba hablando de sientes un bar, hay 40 hombres y tú sales sin problema y todo esto, ¿de dónde viene ese poder y por qué crees que tiene que tanta confianza y dónde viene de ti ese poder, esa posibilidad?
Pienso que es del trabajo que realizamos día con día. Me encanta la verdad el gimnasio, estar en el gimnasio. Y más que nada es eso, el trabajo y la dedicación que uno realiza.
To be honest, I think it's just the work that I put in, day out. I love being in the gym and I work really hard. It's that dedication that I put in. I think it comes from there.
Has he ever fought 40 dudes?
¿Has tenido una pelea con 40 hombres en tu vida?
Maybe tonight.
Quizás esta noche.
Díganos tu sentimiento en firmar con Eddie Hearn y por qué escogiste Matchroom.
Pues la verdad que muy contento por este paso que se dio en mi carrera. Agradecido también con mi equipo, los Cochules, Boxstar y Latin Co por la decisión que tuvieron y por la proyección. Matchroom, un gran equipo, sé que nos va a proyectar muy grande como lo ha estado haciendo y ansiosos por seguir trabajando con ellos.
So the question was, tell us why you chose Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. You know, why did you make this step to work with Matchroom? And Sugar said, I'm really happy with the step that I made, you know, in my career. I have to say thank you to my team as well, Los Cocholos, Latin Co, Boxstars as well. I think Matchroom have really been able to push me really well, and I think they'll continue to promote me in a great way, and I'm really anxious to see what's next.
Eddie, we recently heard Turkey LLC describe certain fights as Tom and Jerry fights. I'm guessing you're going to agree with me that this is no Tom and Jerry fighter. What's the likelihood that we see him get a big opportunity on one of these Riyadh Season or Ring Magazine cards?
You know, I've been pushing him on those cards for a while now,
Yeah.
but he just needed that breakout fight because, you know, His Excellency watches a lot of fights around the world, but he's not had an opportunity to watch him.
Yeah.
And before he fought in Japan, I said to Turkey, make sure you watch this guy. So he now knows this guy is full of excitement. And you know, there's a lot of people following those comments that have been reaching out to Turkey saying, I'm excited, let me have a shot, you know. But now we're a little bit different because before we were looking for that opportunity, now we got the crown. So now we're going to be smart, but we're going to still fight everybody. But I know that every time he goes into the ring, how exciting he is. But you see with Sugar, he's a very interesting style because when you think of an aggressive Mexican fighter, you just think of this come forward, like, not sloppy, but like just someone that takes chances. And he does, but his IQ is incredible as well. Like if you actually watch the Rikishi fight,
Yeah.
he physically beats him up and then he breaks him down. And the shot selection, you know, he starts off throwing, you know, more aggressive shots, then he moves to straight shots, then he's stabbing the body, he's working him on the inside. Like he has a very high IQ as well as being very aggressive and also with the biggest knockout ratio in the sport because that's what he has. In fact, the biggest knockout ratio in boxing.
Yeah, we're talking about a fighter that, if anything, is cut from the cloth of Marco Antonio Barrera, high IQ,
Yeah.
aggressive fighter,
Yeah.
Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
Yeah.
So it's really about getting him the big fight. So who do you want to target?
I like the Navarrete fight because
Yeah.
it's two Mexicans and it's just an absolute war. Like Navarrete's never in a bad fight, nor Sugar. But it's just, you know, what we said earlier about those guys, they want to get paid very well to be in that kind of fight.
Yeah.
Whereas Sugar's now, the money's going up and up for him, but he's not been spoiled yet. See, this Tom and Jerry stuff, what happens is the fighter starts to make a lot of money, and this is pure common sense, and I don't blame them, but they're not the same fighter. They don't want to be in the trenches. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they've got money.
Yeah.
And like, that's what you're seeing with Haney, Ryan Garcia, even Canelo Alvarez. Like Canelo's a businessman. Why would you want to have that type of fight if you don't need to have that type of fight? Yeah?
Yeah.
So I like to work with guys, especially on the come up, that are like fucking throw me in the trenches and I'll fucking show you who comes out on top.
Yeah.
And that's him. So the hope is that mentality continues. So we unify the division. And listen, then when he makes his money and he's got his belts, let him turn soft. Do you know what I mean? But not yet. Like that's why. And someone like Navarrete here, see Sugar right now is thinking, just give me the chance.
Yeah.
Like, give me the opportunity. I will walk through walls. Navarrete's going, give me the money. You know what I'm saying? It's a difference.
Eddie, one quick question. So we know the experience that Nunez has and everything, Sugar. We know Canelo's going to have a card coming up. Do you think this is the type of skill that we should put on the Canelo?
Yeah, I think that His Excellency talks about he wants younger fighters on there, like more prospects. But yes is the answer. For us, the plan with Box Stars is to take him to Mexico in September, give him a homecoming defence, and then early next year move into a big fight in San Diego or somewhere in America. And that could be a unification, that could be a Ray Ford if he beats Kakachi. I mean, you know, it's got to be the right fight for him. And then we want to unify. So the next 3 fights, the plan is homecoming defence or unification in America, and then 100% unification. And the plan is for him to have 3 fights by the start of summer 2026.
Eddie, for one of the
Last question,
fights that
Sebastian.
actually you just mentioned that you would like to see Nunez coming over here to make a statement. This fight would like to be in New York City, California, or Houston.
I think, like I said, San Diego is a place that I really like for the Mexican stars. It's somewhere that's worked well for us. Phoenix as well. You know, you've seen the other name that I think is a great fight for him for a defence is Oscar Valdez. You know, I think Nunez against Oscar Valdez is a good, solid, voluntary defence. Good name, good fighter, two tough Mexicans. So yeah, those parts of the world, like I said, Texas, you know, wherever. But I think Sugar against Valdez in Phoenix would do extremely well.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Eddie.
Sugar done. Sugar's continuing.